You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
All right, let's get back to some boring subjects.
Understand the risk to our country.
Freedom brings people together.
You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the program. My name is Chris Spangle. Joining me is Harry Price and Rhinehold. We're back for the... I said during the Spike show that was our last episode of the year, and I forgot about this. So I don't even know what we're gonna talk about. We'll talk about something after this brief message from your president.
Warning, this show is for adults, produced by semi-adults. So the language is sometimes strong and offensive.
I don't know what I said.
Welcome to We Are Libertarians, where our goal is to help you sound smarter while talking to your friends. We examine current events from a libertarian perspective while treating modern politics with all of the irreverence it deserves.
There has been lie after lie.
We toss out the screaming heads, put people before political parties, and give context to the news to make you think. Now, here's our host, a 15-year veteran of politics and media, Chris Spangle.
You can tell that's old because it's 20 now.
Yeah.
So this is like 5 years old at least. So welcome to the program, the last We Are Libertarians of 2025, as heard on the Chris Spangle Show and the We Are Libertarians podcast feed. It is a roundtable discussion of current events or just whatever we feel like. I don't even know what we're talking about. Like I said, we confirmed this like 3 times, but I stopped looking at my calendar a week and a half ago.
Pretty normal.
I know I had last Monday a meeting, my boss, so I knew I had to go to the office, but I don't have anything on my calendar this past week and the next week, and it's just been glorious. So Reagan and I are making plans on Saturday for today, and I feel like I've got something to do, but yeah, we can go ahead and we can box things up and start preparing to move, and then I was like, I really got to think of something to do to get out of the house so I don't have to do any of that. And then lo and behold, I saw that this was on the calendar. So yeah, when I said Spike was the last episode, I wasn't lying. It's just I'd forgotten.
Well, that's nice.
Harry, how are you?
Going good. That explains why I got a lot of messages like, did you listen to all the way to the last show? I'm like, no, what happened? Oh, this. Okay.
Rhinehold, how are you today?
I'm doing all right.
So it is the Saturday between Christmas and New Year's, which means nobody's going to listen to this except Christy Avery.
A lot of people do work on Monday, so give them something to do.
Poor bastards.
Yeah.
Are you guys, I'm not technically off next week, but there's basically nothing for me to do, so I will be working, but I was winking at the camera. I will be working. I have to send out email newsletters and things like that, but there's nothing to edit. There's really nothing going on. And it's like you just sit there and wait for an email to hit your inbox on December 24th and nothing comes through. Maybe not at your work, Harry, but there are things that come through on December 24th at the last minute, but...
Yeah. Being the sole IT person for a company of about 50 people.
You got a message 5 minutes ago, I'm sure.
I got a message like 5 minutes ago, something's broken, or I've got an onboarding ticket I got on Christmas Eve, demanding like, oh, we're going to get the laptop shipped out. I'm like, sure, when he starts. I'm thinking like end of January. Nope, January 7th. Awesome. That'll be fun.
Good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck.
May the shipping gods be ever in your favor. And Rhinehold, I don't know that you want to articulate this here. It's okay if not, because we don't even use your real name. I don't even know what you do.
Rhinehold is my real name.
Okay, I don't even know what you do. What would you say you do every day? I know there's something in technology and there's large tech companies involved and consulting.
Consultant. And that's,
Consults
some kind of computer systems.
Here, tilt that
Microsoft computer systems. So
He casts magic.
So he could be a programmer, a networker. Who knows?
not a programmer.
Okay.
Although I do some programming as far as PowerShell scripting, stuff like that, but not like I'm pulling up C# and writing applications or anything like that. It's just script stuff to make my stuff easier.
Now, one of you got me a Christmas present. It was not Harry. It was Rhinehold. Which, when Rhinehold said he was getting me a Christmas present, I thought, this is so nice and so thoughtful. And then he showed up with a Christmas present. And it is John Bolton's book, which may be the funniest Christmas present I've ever got. This is in the vein of Joshua Sexton in terms of humor. I'm excited to read it so I can see what will be in the trial. But thank you very much for giving me a Christmas present. You are the favorite co-host for the show. Harry, you're dead to me.
It's fine. Second night of Kwanzaa. And,
do you really do Kwanzaa?
No.
Okay. Harry is black, in case you can't tell.
No, I don't have anything.
Rhinehold is not.
It's just not something in my practice. It's not something I do. I'm
Okay.
not against it. All power for people who do it.
On what's called a dark German, though.
Okay. I noticed with the mustache. So
I do celebrate Festivus. So I got the airing of Grievances.
Oh,
right here.
no, really?
Notepad.
I better not be in those. Do I make up 75% of them?
Okay, honestly, they're mostly you.
He's going to add one for this morning, too.
Yeah, because last night
Did you win the poll?
No, because he said 9:15. I was here at 9. I was here at 9:05.
Yeah, it was 9:05. Yeah, came at 9:05.
Yeah,
we didn't start till 9:15. Okay, all right, we didn't start to hit record.
I was steaming my infant. So our infant has had a cough for 2 months. She's 6 months old. She's teething, so there's a lot of mucus.
Mm-hmm.
So she's miserable. She's coughing all the time. So I had to give her a nice steam shower.
Nice.
So I was just a little late because of that. And the cough cleared up, but she was miserable this morning. So I was like, I'll take the baby in there and steam her.
Yeah.
She hated it. She was very hot. She doesn't like the shower. But like, it's better than coughing yourself.
Yeah.
To death.
Yeah. Probably shouldn't have.
All right.
Had
So
asparagus in there too.
What are these grievances?
Just some things, just some small things that over the year.
Years?
Yeah.
Just 2020. Okay,
year
good.
Year review.
What happened? Nothing happened this year really to talk about, so it's kind of
yeah, nothing really happened this year, and I doubt this is going to be the last podcast of the year. Something's going to happen. The way that things have been happening.
Who knows what I've forgotten?
We might get another Venezuelan oil tanker before the year's up.
I know we in the new year are going to get more to the news because there's so much going on. Yeah, because but if we're meeting once a month, it's like, good grief. What do you pick? There's something every day.
And honestly, meeting once a month, especially at the end of the month, one, is easier on my yoga schedule.
Yes.
Two, it also allows us to not to be first on a lot of different things, so we can sit there and not have to rush. Like, oh crap, let's go talk about this now. Unlike the other beanie podcasters and the other people who
you used to like Tim Pool. What happened?
Still enjoy some of his content. I feel that the man needs a longer vacation than he's ever taken. He needs to step away for a few seconds and see the world differently. Maybe take a good break.
His financial incentives won't allow him to do that.
A normal empathic human.
Yeah. And honestly, which ticks me off a lot of the other podcasters out there that do news and stuff like that, is that they have this. Tim's been in the game a long time, but for some reason, he talked about how people don't have a good memory of it. It's just dude, you were doing all kinds of stuff for Vice during the Obama era, and all this stuff seems new to you.
Yeah, I have noticed a real thing where people who started paying attention to politics in the Trump era or during COVID and after, they seem to think that nothing has ever happened before. This is all brand new. It's everything is an emergency because it's not. It's people who've been doing this for 20, 30 years, not much of this is new.
Yep.
If you understand history.
Yeah.
It's very predictable if you know history.
Yeah. And you have done episodes talking about, hey, let's not give all these powers to Obama because he won't always be president.
We've done this. This show's almost 14 years old. You can go back and listen. Hey, maybe we shouldn't give the executive more power because one day a guy might come in and do the same things that you don't like. And here we are. The left is kind of going, maybe they have no memory either. They're not going, next time we're in charge, we're going to really buckle down, empower Congress more towards the Constitution.
Put some reins on the
Put the reins on the presidency. We made some mistakes with Obama, that the fruit of the poisonous tree has started to sprout with Trump. So let's do the opposite. No, they come in because every party always wants to forget history, forget their actions to justify what they're doing.
Yep. Well, that's been completely annoying to Rhinehold. There's a lot of different times where I think a lot of times, like, I don't know, I want to say pity you, but like I feel like, man, as I get older and learn more, this sucks.
It's frustrating more than anything.
Rhinehold's like 75 years old.
So where you say, this is going to happen this way. This is going to happen because of this and this and that. And you spell it out and say, you want to avoid this. We have a history. We know what this is. We've done this before. We've done this over. Like when we were talking about the Libertarian Party, it was like, they're going to, LPMC is going to come in. We've done it. We did it in 83. We did it in 2000. It's like, we keep doing this because people keep thinking that history doesn't matter because they're new and they've got the fresh ideas and nobody's thought about this stuff before. It's like, we've all thought about this before. Yeah. This isn't new stuff. And it's just the same tug of war going back and forth between people. And it just wish somebody would be able to get through to the society and say, look, we know this stuff doesn't work. Let's stop trying to do this stuff.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So your grievances, we don't want to skip over that because people are waiting.
Honestly, one of the biggest grievance I have with Spangle has to be his timing. Okay. You have perfect timing, but also the worst timing. Like
my mother called it Christopher time. I operate in my own sense of time. It was very annoying when I was a child.
Interesting. Yeah. Let's see. There's that one.
You got to explain that a little more.
Oh, okay. So you're very good at, as a friend, you're always there, right? You're always there. As a friend, amazing timing, right? But for some reason, when it comes to like this show or anything, I'm like, where's Chris? Where the heck is he?
I am getting better than I used to be. I used to show up an hour late.
Yeah.
As Paul said, I even showed up an hour late to my own house once while you were there.
But as a friend, ever needed the guy, ever need you, message you, like you're like right there, like, what do you need? I'm here to help. And I'm like, why can't you be like this for the show?
Yeah. This is work. And so here's where my life is right now. Okay, here's the justification. I have a day job now where I manage 12 to 15 podcasts. And then I have a side business where I manage 3 to 6 podcasts at any given time. And then I have like 4 of my own. All while having a family with a 6-month-old, 2.5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So I basically work. I get up 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., somewhere in there. And then Matthew wakes up about 6:30. So I start parenting, and that doesn't end till 9. I'm really tired. I have so many responsibilities. My brain, what has been very helpful with this podcast lately is the Foundations of Liberty stuff. I'm really going to like kick into that because unlike interviews or unlike this, where with this, I've got to manage your schedules and my time, plus the studio time that we have. This is my podcast studio, but I rent it out to other people, so I've got to be out of my own studio at 11 today to make sure that the client can get in. And then I've got, I'm not doing as much Young Voices because some of those people are not interesting. Some of those people are. And so now I'm kind of in a space where, like, I've written out this series, and I can do it on my own, and I just got a teleprompter. You can see that. That's what I got myself for Christmas. So, I don't know. This is still something I love doing. I haven't quit on purpose. We have 50 patrons who I feel an obligation to make sure that there's at least 3 to 5 episodes a month, especially Rhinehold, our $100 a month. We are down to Rhinehold in the $100 a month club. And I don't blame people. Like, I'm not outputting what I was able to put out, but that's why. I'm more diligent in terms of showing up on time because I'm more adult, because I think men are like flatbed trucks. The heavier the weight, the straighter they drive. So I think, like, you have to have a lot of responsibility as a man. Think about it. You have to have a lot of responsibility to kind of, like, at least for me, if I'm, like, just got nothing to do and there's nothing on my calendar for a couple days, I'm off in fantasy land. So, yeah. So that's kind of where we're at in life. Not giving this up. Don't plan to. Also have a couple really cool big clients right now that I'm doing big projects for that I can talk about later. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, so life's very good. I'm just life-wise, we are trying to buy a house in the next 3 to 6 months. which means I'm taking on a lot to pay off debt. We're under $20,000 in debt, no car payment. Just paid a massive chunk to lawyers to get that paid off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a lot though. So yeah. So when it comes to this show, I feel like sometimes like I can't slack with a client or work or kids. But you know, you guys saying we're going to be here at the end of the month and we've stuck to it, except I think for last month we couldn't make it work,
which is my fault. That's mostly my fault because it was like the only free Saturday I had to go and do yoga training.
Yeah, but that's okay. We're kind of falling into a rhythm, but that's why things are the way they are.
Yeah, and I enjoy the last, especially saying like the last Saturday, but it's easier for me to schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel that like my therapist even tells her like you probably should watch how many hobbies or tasks you're taking on, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't like being bored.
Hobbies are just not a luxury I have right now. Like it's not in the cards at the moment. So when I get an extra 2 hours, I take a nap. Like yesterday, I took a nap. But it was the first 2 hours I've had off in a month and a half. So.
Nice.
You can hear it in my voice, I'm tired. So next grievance.
We appreciate you.
I'm not trying to make myself sound like a victim. I'm just saying this is what it is right now. But 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I will still be doing this show. And I'll probably be able to do it the way that I want to be able to do it. I'll just have more time. Because my kids will be teenagers and they won't want to spend time with me.
He thinks he's going to stop having kids.
Well, if last night's any indication...
Oh, okay. All right. We'll go back.
I did not follow instructions.
Take that line off.
Well, in the new place you're getting, make sure you have a nice podcast studio there too.
She found one yesterday that looked pretty good. But yeah, like our house right now, I got kicked out of my office so my son could have his own room. Spoiled.
I know.
So
it's such a hard time to be buying a house now since everything is peaking.
I know. Well, the thing is, we've been watching for a couple years, and because we live in downtown, at least two, because we live downtown, people think it's too dangerous. So like a crap box house out where I grew up in the neighborhood that I grew up in Plainfield, like $400,000 or $500,000 for like 1,900 square feet for a house built in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But where we live, you could get 3,000 square feet for $250,000, $300,000.
Yeah.
Because people think it's dangerous where we're at, which is not the case. So you can get these amazing houses, like pretty nice houses in areas that are safe. Like we let our kids play out front while we're inside. We keep the door open to listen to them while they're talking to each other. Like we don't hover. But it's not living. If you look it up, we're near Heron Morton. So look up like 20th and Central. That's not where I live, but that's close to where I live. And like you zoom around the houses on Google Earth, it's like a pretty nice place to live. We can't afford to buy here, so we're going to be a little north. But like people have this perception of downtown that is so fundamentally different than the experience of living downtown. Like we walk 10 blocks to our church and we see 7 members of our church and wave and say hi. And I mean, it's more Mayberry than living in the suburbs where you drive your car into the garage, shut the door, and don't talk to anybody.
But you realize that's a new thing, right?
What?
This area being like that.
Oh, yeah. Where I live was called Dodge City. I mean, are you talking about my specific area? Yeah. I mean, no, like it is. Mayor Stephen Goldsmith got federal funds in the 90s to go through and clean up and revitalize these houses, and that's why it is the way it is where I live. But
gentrification.
In Indianapolis, in a city of almost 1 million people, 12th largest city, there are like 4 pockets you don't want to live.
Yep.
You don't want to go there. That's where 90% of the crimes are.
Yep.
What's interesting is that it changes.
Mm-hmm.
They rotate around.
Yeah.
Very interesting to watch sometimes.
Right now it's Crown Hill, 34th and Keystone. That's starting to change a little bit. 10th and Rural was that way 10 years ago. Now it's gentrifying.
Yep. Hallville's getting nicer.
Hallville's nicer. Yeah.
Which is weird to me.
Check out the Hope Church of Hallville if you move there, but Well, so with the thing with Hawville, for instance, this is what people like think, okay, this is a blighted area. But when you look at where it's located, which is it's here, and then you've got IU and Purdue fighting for the IUPUI campus, and there's an arms race for property there. Then down here you have the Elanco development, and then you've got you've got the IU health system going in, the biggest
expanding west.
I mean, you've got like 4 big projects, and it's located centrally, and so it's this massive 4 job creation centers that are like 10 years from now going to be major employers in the city. And so investors have gone through and bought up this blighted part of town, and so the neighborhood is radically changing. And people are being squeezed out of their house, not by people like me and Reagan, who are kind of middle class and want to move into an area, so we're looking for a deal. But like the house that she looked at yesterday that would be perfect for us, it's got good bones, but it just has an outdated kitchen.
Yep.
If we were to buy this house, she said the competition is not with other people, it's with BlackRock.
Yeah.
And so we may not be able to get a house in the area we want that's reasonable because it'll get bought up by BlackRock first.
Because they're buying out the houses and then renting them out.
Yeah, they own like 30% of the houses in the country or something stupid now. So buying a house in this time period is not ideal, but where we watch, prices are down $50,000 to $100,000 from where they were in 2022.
We are kind of coming down on the peak a little bit, so I was glad that I sold some of my property at the peak.
Yeah.
Because that got me completely out of debt and everything else.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to watch how much difference the price of property was when I bought it to what it is now.
For sure.
Amazing. I'm like,
yeah.
Can't believe it.
Well, yeah. Well,
so what are the
when you got the property, when you came over here with the ox on the Oregon Trail, it's bound to be.
I staked my claim.
Homesteaded it with your mule.
Yeah, but it does make you wonder, like, what really, like all the other dark money that stopped Indy 11 getting the stadium over there, because it's prime real estate from that area.
Yeah, so here in Indianapolis, you've got a ton of investors. There's a guy named Aerosol Ozdemir who runs Keystone Property Group. He just built this gorgeous hotel near the Circle. Now he bought the old Anthem building on the Circle. We have a gorgeous Circle. If you've never been to Indianapolis, it's a really cool place. I work on the Circle, so I walk out and look at this beautiful Soldiers and Sailors monument every single day, which is the world's largest Christmas tree.
Yep. Don't have to see Rob anymore.
Yeah, and he was trying to basically build an MLS soccer stadium down in an older part of town where there was the Green Lawn Cemetery. Everybody kind of knew this was the African-American cemetery. No, it was the first cemetery. And then everybody who was white was uninterred and taken to Crown Hill Cemetery. And they left the black residents in Green Lawn. And they found, I think, like 5,000 grave shafts. And everybody in the city kind of looked the other way and said, go for it. Just let's take care of the bones and respect the dead. Until it wasn't advantageous to do that anymore. And the mayor was all for it. Then when he decided, I don't know that Ursol can get a soccer team, but the city can, so let's involve the Pacers. Then they basically undercut all the deals that they had with him. And then Chuck Surak, who owns Sweetwater Musical Instruments, wanted to buy the heliport in another area of town and was going to pay like $14-15 million. And then the city forced the heliport to be sold to the city for $11. So we could have made some dough off of that, but and then there's one person who doesn't want to sell her historic property, and they're probably going to eminently domain her and tear down this historic building to build a professional soccer stadium, which frankly, I just don't know how much people care about here in Indianapolis. I've had my mind changed on a lot of stuff, including the sports strategy. I would say my politics is there should be as limited or as little federal government as possible. Do the 17 enumerated things you're supposed to do in the Constitution, and then shove off. I don't need you. But the lower you get, the more you can do as a government. So what Indianapolis decided was, what do we want this city to be? When Richard Lugar was mayor in the late 60s, early 70s, people like Jim Morris and other people met, cross-party lines, cross-cultural lines, cross-color lines. They'd get together in this group called the City Committee, and they'd have breakfast once or twice a month. What do we want this city to be? And Indianapolis has had this great history of skating to where the puck is going.
Mm-hmm.
So they built the Pacers Stadium downtown with Market Square Arena. Then they built an NFL stadium in the mid-'80s, and a convention center before they had a team. They just happened to put blue seats in.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jim Irsay's dad, Robert Irsay, came in, he was like, you put blue seats in for us? Like, no, we just kind of guessed that maybe you'd want to move the team. But when the Colts came here in 84, they had a stadium already built. Mm-hmm. They had a convention center. And so Indianapolis has used taxpayer money to build stadiums and convention centers and bring in pro sports teams, mm-hmm. because they understand what colleges understand. When IU put a ton of money into their football program 2 years ago and hired Curt Cignetti, they've seen a massive increase in enrollments, because sports, whether this audience likes it or not, is a differentiator and an advertising tool, and kids want to go to a college where there's something exciting. When the NBA Finals and the Fever and the Women's All-Star Game were all happening at the same time last year, mm-hmm. this was an exciting place to be. It culturally enriches a city. And so what they did is they've used taxpayer money to build an industry here around tourism. Who the hell wants to go to Indianapolis? You've got to have a reason. And so what the founding fathers of Indianapolis of the 60s, 70s, and 80s did is build a downtown that was attractive to people to come to, using sports and amateur sports like the Pan Am Games in 88. Mm-hmm. And the NCAA is headquartered here, and there's a ton of the Olympic gymnasts are now building their new facility in Noblesville. And so sports has become like as
the natatorium as well.
The natatorium, right? IUPUI. Sports has basically become like a giant factory. There's 100,000 people in hospitality and tourism in the city core. The mile square generates like 25% of the GDP of Indiana, the state.
And it's become a convention center, like a location where people go to conventions. When they brought Gen Con to Indy,
which is huge.
And
millions and millions and millions. And the firefighters.
It's point now where almost too many conventions going on. It's got to expand out a little bit more so we can handle it.
So they're building a ton of hotels, right? But then where does that strategy like start to fuzz out, right? Like how much eminent domain and taxpayer money needs to go to a soccer stadium and a soccer team when you're going to have a half-full stadium, right, for an expansion team.
Where do you hit the diminishing returns?
Where do you hit the diminishing returns? I don't know. You know, when I was executive director of the Libertarian Party, I really opposed all this stuff because I didn't see the vision because the fruit hadn't sprouted. But we're sitting here 20 years later, and the fruit has sprouted. And Indianapolis is a dynamic city that's awesome to live in. That's a great place to be. And a big part of it is because of taxpayer money going to funding stadiums and convention centers because they had a strategy. The state is now kind of skating to where the puck is in terms of new data centers. The LEAP district with Eli Lilly and building manufacturing and saying in a world of AI, we don't need a ton of people to do factories in the way that they do in China, so we can bring some of those things back and start building car plants and medicine plants and all these other things because we want it to be here and not overseas, because robotics will be at a point 10, 20 years from now where we aren't going to have the waste problems, we're not going to have the labor problems, we're not going to have the skilled labor problems, but we can still, and so there's a lot of taxpayer money through the IEDC going into the Indiana Economic Development Commission, going into things like the LEAP district and data centers and small modular reactors, nuclear reactors. Mm-hmm. And so I think as a libertarian, we sit and we go, no government ever does nothing good. I would totally agree with that on the national side. I think when you have to have a right to exit. If you don't like what's happening in Indianapolis and Indiana, and which is not a bloated big government state, it has a fairly lean government that doesn't do a lot. It just injects cash and capital in strategic areas that I've talked about here. but like I'm kind of okay with some of that because look at what's happened over the last 40 years. We're not Dayton. We're not Wichita. We're not Indianapolis anymore. We're something different. But you have a right to exit to somewhere else in a reasonable way. You can move out of Indianapolis to Terre Haute or over the line to Illinois or to, New Hampshire or whatever. But you don't have really the right to exit when the national government takes on too much, does too much, inflates your currency, involves you in foreign wars, builds these entitlement programs that are going to completely crash and destroy the economy in the next decade. So I don't know. My libertarianism has become nuanced, I guess, over the last 5-6 years.
More minarchist than
minarchist, yeah.
Well, yeah,
subsidiarity is something I believe in.
Yeah, but being a libertarian isn't being an anarchist,
right?
Yeah, they have the same type of people they can talk to, but they're not anarchist. And it's also like you had an issue on how it was funded. Another thing that was going on.
Yeah.
Also that the vision of Indianapolis is completely different than the state government's vision here and there.
Yeah.
They'll go ahead and open up and make more roads, but like but making light rail illegal, Indiana would be poised to continuing being the capital of the Midwest if it would just go light rail.
Well, but the problem with there's some advantages and some disadvantages to the government that we have, okay?
Yes.
And that we live in a very red state, and the economic engine, 30 to 50%, depending on the estimate, of the GDP of Indiana comes from Marion County.
Yes.
And so, and a lot of that is the sports strategy. A lot of that is people are based here, and the manufacturing's here. People live here. It's at a 6.5 million. 1 million people live in this one county.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Eli Lilly, you've got Rolls Royce, you've got Cummins, and it has a foothold here. There's a lot of industry in Marion County. Chase, Salesforce, I could go on.
Yep. And
so you've got a Democratic mayor, Democratic council, but our type of Democrat in Marion County, they're pretty. My personal city councilor, Jesse Brown, is a Democratic socialist.
Yeah.
He's a DSA member.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I agree with him as much as I do with anybody else on the council, not because I'm flaming. It's just horseshoe theory. Like he has come around and said, these are the problems. I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with those problems. Instead of sort of the regular city council who just doesn't see any problems because everything's great because they want to be mayor. You have a supermajority in every other branch, conservative justices, Republican governor, supermajority in Senate and House. You may have seen our redistricting stuff go on. Mm-hmm. So the fight here is not really R versus D.
Yeah.
There are some disagreements between the city and the state, but it's very rare. The mayor talks to the governor all the time. They both say that. You have a very cooperative spirit in Indiana. Mm-hmm. The disconnect here is rural versus urban.
Yeah.
And so where Rhinehold lives versus where I live, although maybe not your specific legislator, what you get a lot of times is we're going to punish them down in Indianapolis because they get everything like football stadiums. So I'm going to protect our interest here and try to bring a soccer stadium to Whitley County. Right? No, that's not how it works. And so the problem here is the supermajority of the legislature has kind of started to huff its own farts and think that everything needs to be geared towards rural Indiana, despite rural Indiana not really having the needs that Marion County and the donut counties have,
right.
Not having the economic growth potential and I get people in these rural areas need jobs and they need to work, but if major companies want to come to one of the donut counties of Marion County, like Hamilton, Hendricks, Hancock, Marion, whatever, like we should engage in that. And so you have something like the road funding. Roads in Marion County are awful. Yeah. You have 100,000 people a day that go over things like roads like Michigan and Keystone Avenue. It gets the same amount of road funding as Race Street in Newcastle, Indiana, where Boss Hog of Liberty is located.
Yep.
It makes no sense, but it's because legislators want to stick it to those liberals down in Marion County, and they want to look good back in their hometowns. And I'll tell you, this redistricting fight that we just had has made a lot of those people who beat that drum for a long time. You can hear him on Boss Hog of Liberty when Tom Saunders was on saying, yeah, maybe we didn't get all this right. maybe this lack of collaboration that we've got that we don't have now is it's just backwards. Like, it's Indiana versus everybody. People don't want to come to Indiana. So you've got to do things like the Olympic swim trials for Eli Lilly and Salesforce to fly people into Indianapolis, see how great it actually is. All the cultural institutions are right downtown, right next to each other. The 5 families of the White River State Park, the zoo, the Idle-Jorg, the State Museum, the military park, like the amphitheater that's right there. It's all within walking distance of the Circle and the hotels and everything. Like, it's a great, cool place to work and live. But if you live in San Francisco, you don't think that.
Right.
But we have the advantages of the bigger city without the disadvantages of a massive homeless population that's uncontrolled, traffic. We don't have traffic in the same way that other people do, despite what people who live here say.
Yeah.
So I've lived in other places. I lived in Chicago for a while. I spent a lot of time in LA, and it's like we don't have traffic here.
No, go to Austin, where they have one interstate through the middle. It's like Avon on rush hour every day.
465 just makes this city manageable and getting around. Like, it takes 20 minutes to get from one side of the city to the other. Depending on how you go.
Yeah. I think most people's traffic complaints are like the rat runs where people try to get around something because an accident has happened on the major thoroughfares and they're using like a city road, like a road.
I mean, you have your
neighborhood.
You have your places, right? They're still trying to figure out Northeast 465.
Yeah.
That's always been an issue because of Carmel and all the stuff that's going up in the fissures and everything.
Wish there was like a light rail system that could just move people through,
like an interurban type deal.
Yeah, something like that.
That's the thing I always said, because I drive, the interstate into Indy, and it's like we have this big area in between the 2 lanes. That's all just the median. It's all just ground. Why not have a rail system you're going down that?
Because the state legislators in the country areas are never going to fund it. They're never going to allow it. They're not. They'll look at the amount of. So we have no turn on red signs, which drives me crazy, and I violate these all the time.
It's amazing. We need more of them.
No, it's moronic. Okay. I have almost been hit 5 times working downtown because these no turn on red signs. Because they're trying to reduce pedestrian deaths. And this is government logic, okay? Let's reduce pedestrian deaths by making the drivers only have the chance to turn right on green. So what does that do? When you have a green light and you're turning right from Washington to Illinois, you have a green light at the exact same moment they have the walk light in the lane you're trying to turn right. And so now everybody tries to drive through and violate the law by trying to quickly get through, and they end up hitting people. I've almost been hit 5 times. It's moronic because instead of allowing people to turn right on red, when there is no pedestrian present, they're forcing them to turn right on green when the pedestrians have the opportunity to walk. Please explain to me how this makes any sense.
All right, so
this is government logic at its finest.
That is bad design. Indiana does have some bad urban designers, but no, it does make it safer. The pedestrians do have the right of way. Sorry that your private car on the public roads.
You have to get off this. This is Indianapolis. We're never not going to have this.
All right, so
you're always going to have cars here. Like, this is. As much as you want light rail and walking trails, this is just not how it works.
This is going to be a walking city.
It's going to be a walking city.
It's just going to be a walking city.
Yeah, that's the benefit of being in a city. So you complain.
Remember when we had Circle Center Mall, and the whole thing was where you could walk from this hotel to the mall to the convention center to the Hoosier Dome at the time, and you were inside the whole time.
Right.
They had all these walkways we had built.
No, I like the 15-minute city ideas in certain ways, and I think that it's really just how cities always were. So like when they look up Rethink 7065 or whatever, and this group put together a plan that cost the same amount as the proposed plan to redo the interstates here in downtown Indianapolis, and it looked like Dallas or the Big Dig in Boston, where you had like it didn't separate the community. It put the interstate under the tunnel and allowed you to have walkways, and it was like a garden, basically. And it was brilliant, and it cost the same amount. And what did they do? They redid the exact same interstate in the same way, except they got rid of the exit that I used. And so then they forced me, because they did that because they were trying to give your crowd some sort of little win so there's less traffic going through downtown. You know what happens? I now have to drive through downtown to get on the interstate. Instead of having... No, shh. I'm not done yet. I'm pissed off. You've triggered me. I have to drive downtown instead of just getting on the interstate. There are more cars going through downtown. There's more traffic because of your no turn on red signs. And this is intentional. You're trying to make it more frustrating to have a car in the city so people will throw up their hands and go, oh, I'll ride the red line. I live next to the red line. I'm not getting on there because I don't want to get murdered. I'm going to drive my car and pay $100 a month to park 5 minutes away from my house downtown.
I thought you said it was safe.
The red line is not safe, but the city is safe. If I'm on I've been on the circle every day for the last year. Never felt threatened. But if you go, I want you to hang out at the Little Caesars at 21st and Meridian and just spend the day there and watch the characters on the red line. Not safe.
Can I bring my violin?
You can bring a video camera because you'll see all the police and medical emergencies from the stabbings that you'll have.
So there's a good example, though, is that 65-70 split thing that, what was it, 15 years ago, they redid everything and redid all the stuff. And it was like, they didn't change the one issue that was the big problem with there, is that 65 is going this way, north, and 70 is going east-west. Yeah. And they meet, and then everybody has to cross traffic.
Oh, yeah, you're talking like if you're
the other way.
It's insane.
Continue on 65 or continue on 70. So when they redid it before, I was so upset. I'm like, why didn't they fix that? Because that needs to go away because that's where most of the wrecks are. This time they actually did it, which was like, oh, at least they did that part.
They did that part, but if you leave here, so when you leave here and you go up to the Dairy Queen from the studio, hang a left and get on the interstate, you get into this merge where all the traffic and everything converges, and you have to go from 70 over across 4 lanes of traffic in about less than a mile to get back onto the 70 going right. Yep. So it's just this crazy design that makes no sense that destroyed neighborhoods here in Indianapolis 70 years ago that it's just silly.
Yep. And as you go from 20 to 55 miles per hour. So that's one thing about Indiana's roads, is that the people who designed that people are angels and will obey every rule of the road at all times. And that is one issue that why you have issues with traffic downtown, is because people are speeding, going a lot faster than they need to. So it keeps the platoons closer together, which that they would be spread out by the traffic calming effects. So that's your issue there. But it's because they are allowed to, like, if they just do 30, but people are going faster than 30 down there, which because they can, because we don't break it up, the sidewalks, if we raise them up to curb level so they're more speed bumps, but slow more traffic down, and we probably need to have more areas where their cars aren't allowed and force people out of their cars.
I just think for pedestrian stuff, we really need more crosswalk, like
more crosswalks
above the
like gerbil trails.
Gerbil trails will help out, but there's a lot of different designs, things that we can do on the road, like make sure they're timed correctly, doing some nearsightedness on the light signals to force people back, so when you are turning we more help that out, see that as an issue, so people can go out and go fix those things.
Well, the one thing that they've managed to do hasn't worked. So I don't know where you're getting this.
I've got several different urban design books. I could get
you.
I've been converted.
The state legislature, by the way, voted all the no turn sign. So the legislature got rid of the no turn on red signs all around the state house. So anything that affects a rural legislator, they got rid of all the no turn on red signs between the state house and the interstate.
We also probably need to have a size. We need to reduce the size of vehicles that are also allowed downtown.
Like what? Like trucks?
Yeah, trucks.
So then how are you going to supply Giordano's with their pizza supplies? Or how's GFS going to take their food over to Kilroy's.
We can make last mile smaller vehicles or just allow certain paths and certain times.
Yeah, but so companies have to buy a new vehicle to service downtown? That doesn't make any sense.
What? They're destroying the roads with these massive things and making it dangerous for other people.
The thing about downtown is that downtown works fairly well. Okay,
Yes.
the original mile square from West to East Street to North to South Street, which is why that's the original square, that works fine. Where you really have the problems we're talking about is the major roads. Michigan, Keystone.
So they ruined Michigan and New York Street. They ruined those.
Yeah,
streets.
if you're a pedestrian, let me say this. I half joking about the Red Line. Public transit is incredibly necessary for people who are experiencing economic hardship. Like if you live in the poorer parts of town, it is virtually impossible for you to get a job. Like if you are in poverty, transportation and housing are your two biggest issues. And the places you can get housing usually don't have transportation. And so it becomes impossible to actually keep a job. So for everybody who's pull themselves up by their bootstraps type people, they're probably also the same people saying, I don't want buses, I don't want light rail, I don't want transportation for people that you want to save $200 a year on taxes to make sure somebody stays in poverty is what you're saying, realistically. And I'm not one of those people, because when doing work with people that are experiencing poverty through the ministry that my wife runs, when you go and take these folks food or you go and take them things that they need and you see where they live, they have to walk 1.5 miles to a bus stop, and they have little kids. Imagine carrying a car seat and a 2-year-old on the other arm 1.5 miles to a bus stop to get them to school. It's crazy. We make poverty so much worse because we don't have public transit.
Right.
And so, again, going back to my unlibertarianness that has developed as I've gotten more ingrained in the workings of the city and how things work for regular people in the city, public transportation, I'm become let's spend money on it, because I can spend the $200 in taxes to make sure Kertisha can get to work, right? Because her car got stolen. This is a real story. Her car got stolen. The car that she had just bought got stolen. She had saved up to buy a car, and it was taken within a month. Yep. And so now she's got 3 kids, a newborn and 2 kids that she's got to take to a bus stop. And her housing that she can afford is nowhere near one.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Like it's not downtown that needs these effects. It's women like her who are having to walk in drainage ditches to get to a bus stop in heavy snow.
Yes.
That's the problem where, like, and while people are going 75 miles an hour and she's got no sidewalks. So like that to me is, if we're going to spend the money to do the 15-minute city stuff, I don't need the 15-minute city where I live. I've already kind of got it. I live in a gentrified area of town. I want it to be at 38th and Arlington.
You want to gentrify the whole city.
I want Indianapolis to be the best place in the entire city in the entire country to be poor. Like if you are poor, Indianapolis should be an awesome place to live.
Public streets should not just be these massive gutters that we allow people to ride their private vehicles on. That should be for the public to be able to use to do transportation the way they want to do it. They should not be forced having to buy a private vehicle to get on this. They should have to buy a product to use the public road.
Yeah, all right. I'm with you.
Took that analogy from the Affordable Care Act and just brought it.
Yeah, why should you be forced? Yeah, I mean, why? It's like the bike lanes.
Yeah.
Okay, the bike lanes are actually a safe place to walk.
Correct.
And the only place to walk from some of these places I'm talking about.
And the bike lanes aren't safe a lot of the times.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who just got hurt on one.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, when you mixing bike traffic, where people walking, it's completely different because bikes aren't cars and cars aren't bikes. That whole idea of these bikes aren't following the rules of the road because bikes aren't cars. It's perfectly okay. This thing's like 20 pounds and who cares? No one cares this thing ran this light. Nah, they're not supposed to, but you're like 4 tons and it's massive. No one cares about your
I'm sorry, like, you're stupid if you're on a bike and you run a red light.
Yes,
you're stupid.
Yeah.
If you're on a Lime scooter and you run a red light.
Correct. The scooters are a whole different story. A lot of those people, man, that is it's a whole can of worms. But
You can't have a fun city without Lime scooters.
You can't.
You just can't. You have to have the scooters to have a city that people want to come and visit.
Correct. And they need to be
An afternoon on a Lime scooter in Nashville or San Francisco, funnest day of your life.
Yeah.
Super fun.
But we need the wider lanes built for them. I think that's one thing that they should have did for New York and Michigan. Should have making it two ways. She continued it one way, put it on a road diet, and gave almost an entire lane to bicycles and pedestrians.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They decided to make it 2 lanes for some freaking reason. But anyways, my grievance is you try to get you into loving your urban area and getting into more public transportation. And because that's one of my things is like, I think that, yes, the public transportation is great for people who cannot afford a car to get around to get to a job, but it should also be set up for people like you in the middle class. It should be safe and clean enough that you're wanting to do it and support it more.
The bus system here is, so you remember the big shooting that we had downtown on July 4th? It was like 200 kids downtown and there was a shooting.
Yes. I wanted to say a joke, which one, but yes, I know.
All right. That's because these kids get on the Indigo bus system, threaten the bus driver, they don't pay fares, and then they end up downtown congregating, right? And this is the argument that you get against public transportation to the suburbs, and that it enables crime to be spread to suburban areas. Yep. There's trade-offs to everything, right? Like you can't have everything perfect. But I've changed my mind. I don't know if evolve's the right word, but I think when you experience the life, or not experience, but are in the presence of people who live in a way that you don't live. I grew up on second base. I grew up maybe on third base even. And people who haven't ever even had an at-bat have a much different, harder time. And I think people in suburban America have to have more experiences with people who weren't born on second base to understand that some of these tools are necessary. Some of these things that we do in terms of spending local money make the city more livable. It makes it a better place to live. But I mean, at the local level, because you don't have a money printer in the State House in Indianapolis.
Right.
You have to live within your means. You have to live within your budget. And that's the problem with the federal government is it can print the money to have endless wars, to have massive amounts of debt
But they can also print the money and give to the states and use that as a cudgel and
for sure,
you in line type of thing.
Any of these big projects that I mentioned, some of it came from federal money. I mean, I think there's opportunity right now, okay? I think it is sad that something like Indiana Humanities or there's a coffee shop in a poor neighborhood over on Washington Street, and the reason that they get federal grants is because this is why Magic Johnson bought into Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Magic Johnson discovered that in poor black neighborhoods, there was not a safe place to have a business meeting. Mm-hmm. So if you want there to be black entrepreneurship, you've got to have safe places to have business meetings. And so he and Howard Schultz put a bunch of Starbucks in poor black areas. And so this coffee shop was in an area to alleviate some of those issues. And they lost their funding, so they're closing. It's sad for the neighborhood. Why do people in Wyoming need to pay for a coffee shop in a poor area of Indianapolis? I don't know. I don't think they do. But these are opportunities for, or PBS, okay? PBS makes documentaries about Indiana. Indiana Humanities helps fund those documentaries. Are there for-profit ways to make those things happen now? Are there now opportunities because public money is not being used to do those public things? Now can private money come in and say, hey, there's value here. Can we do this in a different way? Like, it's just about collaboration between local governments, businesses, nonprofits, the elites who have all the money in a city, really getting clear on their priorities in these local areas and saying, this is our vision. We want this to be the best place to be poor, because we have so many ways to walk to a grocery store that's in your neighborhood. We have put businesses for you to work at in your neighborhood. We as a group, as a community between Republicans, Democrats, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Black, white, Hispanic, have all gotten together and found we have a vision for our city and we want to do these things. And so I look at a lot of libertarians and go, the anti-elitist rhetoric is wrong because you are shutting yourself off from achieving any goals. You have to engage the elites in your city and help them see things from a different perspective, maybe a more free market perspective, and help them design systems that can be more pro-markets. Like, my newspaper is owned, the place that I work is owned by a guy who's the board chair of the Liberty Fund, one of the largest libertarian think tanks, and he's deeply engaged in the conversations in this city because of the Business Journal and the Liberty Fund, and trying to find pro-market solutions to the problems that we have in Indiana. Like, that's the model to me. That's what we should aspire to be and should aspire to do.
The biggest problem with libertarians is that they think you have to have a seat at the table. You have to have the ability to work in the system if you want to change the system. You can't just think you can dismantle it or just bypass it or whatever. You still have to do this stuff, right? And it's like with what I've seen, some people I might disagree with Democrats on their solutions to problems, but I agree a lot of times with them identifying what the problem is.
Sure. Like the Jesse Brown example that I mentioned. Yeah.
So that's always the thing to me, is that if we can't agree on the problems, then finding a solution is going to be harder. If we can agree on the problems, we can find a solution that works.
So like one thing with PBS is something you talk about is like, so with the Doge cuts camera's on, but yeah, Doge cuts the cuts. So like PBS, Rhinehold touches on this a lot. When a lot of the funding gets cut, it's so quick, it's so sudden that the market can't react to it, and things need to happen on it. And that's one of the things I did want to talk about, because like I think there are a lot of things that a lot of people are volunteering their time to help out a lot of these programs that have went out. So like in the NOAA situation, like with a lot of the weather stations, so many different like YouTubers or just backyard scientists are giving their data out. Like, okay, we know you can't get this data, but I've got great data, and they're learning from like how to submit the data or how to get better data. So like the cuts happened. We're not saying that, the market quickly picked it up. Like, no, they're still having issues. There's gaps in data.
That's why you've got to give people time. It's not that I'm against these cuts. It's that you've got go read Michael, who's the Moneyball guy? Michael, oh man, I'll have to look him up, but yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, but that's the other thing. So with the PBS cuts, I think like a lot of the time that if your local NPR station and PBS station, like if they they need to have like a bigger conversation with a lot of the local podcasters and stuff like that in their areas. So when they have their statement like, hey, this is our journalism practice. This is how we want to do. This is our ethics journalism. If you want to become a freelancer with us, we will easily publish your content because we need content. We need people to be able to do different things. And if you want to publish with us, under us, this is how you do it.
Yeah, some of the most respected meteorologists now are like Facebook pagers.
Yep.
Because they're using this data. It was The Fifth Risk. The Fifth Risk is a book I read a couple years ago by Michael Lewis, who has kind of gone all in lately on trying to show like what bureaucracy in America does. Not in a way of like, let's champion it, but like, let's explain what the Weather Service does and how it's necessary. And so I'm all for shedding federal projects. But I do think you have to do it in ways that give people time so they can transition to private means, figure out at least how to keep some funding. Like when you just cut off PBS, you can go, okay, well, we've cut off PBS, big whoop. Yeah. Who needs Ken Burn documentaries? I like Ken Burn documentaries. I think they are important culturally for reasons. But I think he could probably find Bank of America and other people to help pick up the slack from CPB. But what you also are doing, and he makes this point, is cutting off news outlets in rural areas that have no other news outlets. Right. You're cutting off information to places that don't have. The point of government doing things is and should be, there is no ability for the private sector or markets to fulfill that service. Yeah. So a place, I don't know that I always agree with that. I think Boss Hogg of Liberty has shown that you can go in and be a news outlet in the private marketplace for a local area like Henry County that often can't support something like a TV station. But in general, what you see in the fifth risk is a lot of like managing nuclear operations. I mean, that's really what the TSA was about, is that when 9/11 happened, the airlines were facing massive lawsuits because they didn't screen those guys carefully. Mm-hmm. And they went to the government and they said, we can't assume the risk of having our airline industry collapse because of lawsuits. And so you have to nationalize the TSA, and the federal government has to take over operations of scanning people getting onto airplanes because we can't have the liability. We fundamentally will not exist as an industry because of these lawsuits. Maybe that's, I don't know, that's the argument. I'm not equipped to evaluate it at this time, but I will say, like, okay, well, the weather service is something that the private sector can't effectively do because you've got to have these things. I think there's always arguments against those things that need to be heard. We, as a society, for whatever, default to more government than not.
Yeah, but we've been like also manipulated the market for so long, right, that it's like it's hard to like, well, is there, because a lot of businesses take this data, love the NOAA data. A lot of our apps pull this data from it. A lot of people are like, oh, I get weather from this YouTube or this Twitch channel. It's like, yeah, they're pulling it from NOAA. You know, data centers, like if you're in, like a lot of IT people like look at the weather pattern, like, oh, if you've got a colo, like, oh, the power is probably going to go down there. Let me try to transfer data up there, make sure the cache is in a different region right now, just because of like how the power is going, just because of how the storms are going in the area. It's that you can't instantly pull the plug because, like I said, those people are even, they're doing the work, but to instantly turn that on. So, like, let's say, like, with NPR and PBS as a station, they go like, hey, Chris, we're losing our funding. We need you to take wall and have someone go to the state house. Here's our credentials. We need you to do that. It's like, you can't take that on instantly. But if they said like, hey, can you build this up in 5 years? Yes, you could definitely have someone teach someone how to, like, this is how you actually. Yeah,
you've got the Capitol Chronicle, which has kind of become, it's a nonprofit news organization that has become the outlet for the state house. It's exactly your example here. You came upon it without knowing it already existed. You know?
Well, it's just more of a showing it, growing it out there. There's a lot of different areas that are doing this. A lot of it's just it's since it pulled one, a lot of the public really didn't have that relationship, and the funding cut has forced it sooner. But I wish they would have just set that up and just trying to get that word out. Like, hey, if you're having public funding, like there are people that are probably doing your job for free or for having fun, and probably just try to work to have a like relationship with people. A lot of the Elmers out there doing radio broadcasts, like these are volunteer people that when communications go down, it's a volunteer people that gets people communicating on ham radios. Mm-hmm. If you have a crappy radio, just listen it up. You can hear them testing things out, moving things around, and these are all volunteer people.
Yeah,
but they've been doing it for decades. So the fraction, like them pulling funding, like okay, we'll just keep doing it on our own. It's just more of a, you can't do that instantly. So if those people were getting paid for decades and you pull it instantly, that's what I was getting more into, like that framework, that communication, that relationship needs to be there and get built up.
Rhinehold, I want to give you a chance because I keep cutting you off.
What I've been trying to say for years is that if you want to do the stuff that libertarians want to do and privatize a lot of this stuff, you can't just pull it and then expect the market to come and take over. You have way too much disruption in that period of time.
Yeah.
And when you do have that disruption, the people who are getting disrupted or affected by it are going to then say, we need government to come in and take care of this because that's a default position for them.
Yeah.
So you end up reinforcing government running these things instead of a private organization running these things. You also have some situations where private organizations don't necessarily have the mandate to provide services to everybody, just to people who could afford it, or just, it's a case of there are some services
which
that
used to be the way the government operated. Right. By the way, you used to have that principle. That now, if you run into somebody at a party, you can get a pardon.
Yeah. But the thing with we just sent missiles into Nigeria.
Yeah.
Because of the increase in power of ISIS. The reason they increased the power there and started doing more things is because we used to have a program called USAID that was giving help to that area to say, hey, you know, we'll help you out here. So there's not as much drive to go with them. Like, you know, it's
a classic argument in American foreign policy is food or bombs.
Yeah, it's called soft defense.
Yeah.
Soft defense always costs less than hard defense.
Right.
So soft defense is you give money to these communities who are struggling and need help. And if you don't, then there's a vacuum and bad people come in and take over. So you give them the help, and that's where our aid is. But then you get people saying, well, we need that money for Americans and not for these people. Fine. You don't help them anymore. Power vacuum comes in. These people take up, and now you've got actual danger that you're trying to fight with military weapons, which cost a lot more money than the money you would have just given them to help them out.
Yeah. I'm growing concerned at how many things like sports and the Kansas City Chiefs, basically the only way they're going to get a new stadium is if a government bought it for them, right? And so Dan Patrick had kind of rant like, okay, well, everybody's paying for this stadium, but they're not really getting anything out. You're charging them $150 a ticket. You're charging them $50 in parking. You're charging them $50 for food
and taxes, and on top of that,
on top of the taxes. And I think that's a very fair argument.
And what guarantee they have the stadium the Chiefs are going to stay?
Right. Missouri just lost them for Kansas. And so the thing that I've become concerned about is that, okay, if government is there for the things that can't be done privately, like food aid, you know, the incentives in terms of food aid, the need for food. I've talked about Gleaners here locally. Like Gleaners told me during the pandemic, it's like you could not have enough private money in the world to fund a Gleaners, a Midwest City food bank. You get a lot of donations from Meijer, from Walmart, Walmart is probably the biggest donor of food on the planet to food banks. And it doesn't matter because they still need to be paid for that food, even though it's marked down and some of it's donated. It's a mixture. What I've become concerned about is how many things have become too big to fail, how many things are too expensive to do privately now. That's solely a function of printing 40% of all the dollars in U.S. history in the last 5 years. Everything is becoming too big to fail. You now have OpenAI, and this is a prediction, and you two are tech people, but this is my gut. You have 6 to 10 companies that keep selling each other the same money. They keep OpenAI gives $100 billion in promises to NVIDIA, who gives the promises to Amazon, who gives the promises to Microsoft, right? So it's like this circle of money that keeps passing around. And Sam Altman gets asked, like, how do you think you're going to guarantee $100 billion in sales? And he has a cockamamie answer like, well, we just don't know what the economics of things look like in 5 years. Things are going to explode so much that the amount of capital that will be created by generative AI in the next decade could mean $100 billion in sales. That's like me saying, well, I was on BET. I could play Medea, right? I could be the next, if Tyler Perry wants to retire, I could be the next. I do know I have been on BET before. It's
such a Halloween costume.
Right. And so what you get is Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman. Why do you think they're all paying for ballrooms and inaugural balls and doing this project or that project and paying for these renovations in the White House? Because they know it's going to collapse during Trump's presidency. There's going to be a .com bubble that breaks, an AI bubble that bursts, and then they're going to claim national security, too big to fail, taxpayers need to bail us out. Trump takes 20% of the industries. Like, they're acting recklessly because they know that we will bail them out, because we did it for the banks. We did it for everybody in 2020. This thing that was highly controversial in 2008 with TARP was the trough being opened, and now there's too many hogs at the trough, and everything is too expensive. Everything is too big to fail. And so I just grow increasingly concerned at how much we're just putting taxpayers on the hook for, right? Like, yeah, I mean, the sports strategy worked for Indianapolis, but like, where's the diminishing returns?
And what we're seeing really just a repeat of the dot-com bubble, right?
Yeah.
So because that was a lot of speculation. We're going to have everything's going to be on the internet. It's big, big, big. We're going to make all this money. Where do you show that you're going to get actual income from?
Yeah.
Like they bought YouTube for like all this much money. How are you going to get money into there? How are you going to get money into Twitter?
Why did Megaphone, you're listening to a podcast hosted on Megaphone, which is owned by Spotify, which bought Chartable and then closed Chartable down. They didn't integrate any of Chartable's products into Megaphone. They just bought Chartable and closed it. Like, what was the point of that several $1 million purchase? I don't get it.
But there was tons of IPOs back in the day. So there were like Netscape IPO'd at this amount, huge amount of money. People were just pure speculation that this is all going to explode and we're all going to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day people started realizing the return on investments aren't happening. The PEs aren't working. The reality came in. And then once you start that little bit of doubt and that little bit of, I don't think we're going to see the money here anymore, people are going to pull. And when that starts, it snowballs.
Yeah.
It is fast.
Yeah, it's main reason. Like I'm so shocked that like Elon Musk has continued to keep kicking the can down the road, even though still no Roadster. Anyways,
Tesla from where it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I thought you were saying Tesla's going to die any minute, and it hasn't. It's turned into a real car company.
I don't know about that.
Oh, come on.
Don't know about that.
Many of those ugly cyber trucks I see on the weekly basis now.
Stupid people buy stupid things. Okay, all right. I'm just.
I have a podcast studio. I can't.
That rocks when
Yeah. Hey.
When I was growing up.
Hey. What are we on? Just on year 3. It's gonna be an amazing crash.
Yeah.
Just sit back and watch because I don't want to get on Elon Musk because they probably had to get rid of the term full self-driving and autopilot. They're probably going after those terms because people realize they're getting marketed and lied to.
Yeah.
So
Waymo getting stuck in the middle of streets because of power outages.
And then them moving debt around from SpaceX and X and XAI and that bubble being on that speculation. But no, when it comes to these glorified search engine AI engines, there's not that many jobs with this time though. A lot of these are speculation contracts. They're hoarding hardware. They are buying things up and having contracts and promises. So a lot of it is a lot more vapor than anything else like that, other than the car industry. The car industry was different. Those were actual people's jobs, tons of around the country.
Yeah.
It's not this kind of the same.
Yeah, it's been the argument forever of Facebook. Like, why is Facebook worth more than GM when it's basically a bunch of computers? It's air, and it's computers that aren't worth anything.
It's air. And it could get smacked down really quickly if the United States just that's why they were so scared of GDPR. If the United States also had a privacy doctrine, which I don't understand why we don't. We made one for Blockbuster, so Blockbuster could sell our video rental data to people, but for some reason, you put it online, perfect, okay to sell that. That makes no sense to me. There's a lot more things I've rented on Blockbuster, wouldn't know, but Amazon was anyways, back to this thing. I think these glorified search engines are going to pop when a lot of, especially with the copyright things are going through, a lot of people realizing that there is no return on investment. There is no money coming.
Yeah.
Especially when you showcase hey, all we need is GPUs. We can run this thing eternally. What? It's all the data that they had, all the human-made data, it's already been put out there in the world. It's already there. And everything else is just junk because everything's been inundated with AI slop for the last 2 years. So it's all junk data now. Now it's garbage in, garbage out. So
it's Google's going to end up in charge anyways.
They're using so much electricity, using so much power. The last few summers here in Indiana, they even tell people, hey, you need to turn down your air conditioning because we're using so much on the grid, let alone people having EVs, right?
Yeah.
So this is 2-in-1 head thing. We already know we don't have enough electricity. These data centers go online.
Which is why Indiana is trying to become a leader in small modular reactors. They don't invoke the fear that you get with big nuclear power plants, but it supplies the same amount of energy in certain cases. Purdue's working on it.
5 to 10 years out. We're 5 to 10 years out for those even remotely coming online. That's even after they dug dirt in. So we're 5-10 years out from that. So this summer, which is going to probably the hottest summer on record, once Indianapolis starts having rolling brownouts because of electricity issues, what's going to happen then? What's public opinion?
Well, that's why there's so many data centers from all these different companies that keep getting killed.
Yeah.
Like there's at least a dozen that I can think of around the state of Indiana, and most of them have been killed by local citizens.
Yeah, Dallas, Texas already has rolling. Your warmer areas already have rolling blackouts, all right, and brownouts during peak summer weather. So it's those public opinions, because people are going to get very angry and mad. And it's the main reason why when air conditioning sales went up, now correlation doesn't need causation, but when AC went up, riots go down. The exact same thing is going to happen. ACs go down, riots.
Combine the fact that nobody can get a job, like entry level people. Les Mis is based on Hugo not being able to get a job. You had all these overeducated, I forget the name of the riots. You'd have to look up what Les Mis was based on. It was like the 1830s riots or something. And it had a lot of overeducated kids of elites and middle class people with no ability to get into the job marketplace. And so they overthrew the government.
Hyped up on coffee. Right. Ready to go do different things. There's the exact same parallel. Rhinehold was 30 when that happened. And it's amazing that we're back here at this point. And it's at that point, it is kind of scary, because you don't know what's going to do, because everyone is buying on this hype. One of the risks I put out to my company, and I tell everyone to do this, if your company is completely in the cloud, right? The risk assessment is, what do you do if your cloud provider says, hey, your fees is going up 300% and your cloud hosting cost goes up 50%? What are you going to do? What do you do? Pound sand?
The June Rebellion in 1832. That's what inspired it.
What you're not seeing in the rural areas, because you guys in the city, they're trying to put these solar farms out in the rural areas.
Yeah.
And so the companies are trying to buy up some of the farmland and saying, hey, we're going to put these huge solar farms out in order to make some money on electricity, and the communities are
I don't get. Can you explain it to me? Because to me, it's like, what's the difference between a cornfield and a solar field? Like, in terms of visuals, like it's open land. What is the problem here? Why are we mad about this?
It's just these are our farmlands. If you take a farmland away, we're not going to be able to feed people.
I get the windmill thing, because it's so, like, you go up through Whitley County, it's unbelievable when you drive up to Chicago. Like, but like, these farmlands aren't even owned by local farmers to begin with.
Correct.
No, where I'm at, a lot of them are. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting about it is when I see these people arguing about where I live, they're very, very much a leave me alone, don't have a government tell me what to do, this is my land, I can do what I want with it. And then as soon as something happens that they don't like on somebody else's land, they're like, oh, no, we need to, that's our land,
right.
It's our community, I'm like, it wasn't that way a few minutes ago when you were saying that you want, now all of a sudden you want socialism, right?
There is a large majority of Americans, maybe this is just a human thing, but especially white suburban boomers, like, their preferences overrule anybody else's preferences. They are libertarian when it affects them, but if their preferences for somebody else, they become socialist. You see it in the president. It's just, my preferences are the most important preferences of all, and nothing can get in the way of me. If I have to impose my preferences on and this is the argument that Republicans had about Democrats forever. You can't just impose your personal preferences on people using force. You have to adhere to the Constitution and have pluralism and have an open society, and free markets will take care of it. And Republicans now have given up on all of that. And if I seem tougher on Republicans, it's because I'm stupid enough to have believed all that. The Democrats have always kind of just said, well, we don't think you should have Coca-Cola. You shouldn't have 32 ounces. You shouldn't have happy extra value meals or whatever. So we're going to impose our preferences on your life. Well, I'm against that. I'm not for it when a Republican comes around and starts doing it. Like you have to marry who I think you should marry. Who says?
You can't hire who you want to hire.
You can't hire who you want to hire. You can't sell your land to who you want to sell your land to. I don't like BlackRock pricing me out of the housing market. I sure don't. But that's also like free markets. Like you have the ability to do this, and it will eventually. Markets will take care of the problem unless they buy all the politicians. Well, that's a whole different problem.
Yeah,
that's not
people
free
say
markets.
The markets will solve the things, but I just don't see it. I mean, when you look at what happened when we just over the past 30 years, the wealth inequality is extreme. It's not been this. We're at a point now with wealth inequality is worse than it was during the French Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the French revolted, was because of the inequality that was going on there, where people were struggling on the lower classes to make ends meet and to get food and just live a life that's not a huge struggle. And then you got all these smaller people making tons
I'm sorry,
of money.
like Jeff Bezos being a billionaire is not the reason I'm broke.
No, it's
the
not
reason I'm broke is the Federal Reserve prints 40% of all currency in the last 5 years.
But you're also understanding that they have power to manipulate the markets to make things in a way that it is harder for you to do things.
They have the ability to buy the government to manipulate the market. It's the instrument of force that's the issue. It's not the markets.
Necessarily. Having money is power. Because if he doesn't like that this company over here is going to start up, he can just buy him and put him out of business.
Sure.
He doesn't have to go to the government. He can just do what he wants to do with it.
Yeah, and they have. They've bought companies that could rival them.
So it's not a free. See, when people say free market, I think they misunderstand what I see as a free market. In my opinion, free market means the market operates freely.
Amazon also provides a great service, though. Like Amazon has revolutionized shopping in a way that has given me hours back.
Mm-hmm. But it's also cost a lot of people their livelihoods too.
Well, they'll have. I mean, that's just how it is.
It's just JCPenney online. That's all it is. It's JCPenney catalog online.
Sure, but I don't have to go anywhere.
Correct. Yeah,
I don't have to leave my house.
Just like the JCPenney catalog.
But you know what? They have started to ship books in a very poor condition
now,
and so I'm just sticking with eBay.
Exactly.
Like they've lost my business because they're not good.
Here's the thing. Amazon is going to find the lesson that Walmart learned also. Mm-hmm. Is that, one, you can't keep abusing people. People aren't a Pez dispenser.
Right.
You're going to run out of people who have never worked for you or can work for you. You're going to keep abusing your product. You keep going down for the cheapest things to keep making that line go up, and the Walmart is turning more towards quality and taking care of its workers. It's a very slow corner that they've turned, but they have done it, and they're realizing that if they get into shipping like Amazon, they can ship faster and quicker because they're using all their stores as shipping points. So remember you laughed at the last mile little shipping trucks? Yeah, that's what Walmart bought. Yeah, they bought a whole bunch of them. They're making big things going to their big box stores, and then having last mile trucks and ship things to
right,
your
like
store.
the Amazon trucks that butt up against each other and mate.
Yep, basically. But like I said, Walmart learned a long time ago, like, hey, if we keep abusing people, we are going to run out of people to work here. Yeah, so they've turned that corner. They're not taking care of them like Marsh supermarkets used to take care of people, but give it a couple more decades. A lot of these inequalities, especially with Amazon are having, is because they received a lot of different government subsidies to also get that big. AWS was giving a leg up because a lot of the government agents were using it. Then the whole turn to cloud. So a lot of VC money was going into startups, and then that truckload of VC money was going directly into AWS. And it was this massive, stupid parasitical hole. Like most, I don't care. Like they had 15 different startups, but they all were dumping $500,000 in AWS every year for like cloud providing. It was the goofiest thing I've ever saw with working startups.
All right, well, we got to start wrapping up because we got to get out of the podcast studio.
I didn't know we started. Was that?
I know, right?
I thought we were just pre-talk.
We're like an hour and a half in.
It was going to be one of my grievances, is like him just like taking us, not telling us we started the topic, and just going through it. You know?
I didn't have a topic.
I did.
What was your topic?
I was going to talk about the NPR PBS thing and the whole. I wanted to get more into the whole them starting the relationship and going more into that.
I feel like we did talk about that.
We did. I had it pull us there.
He snuck it in.
Yeah, snuck it in. get us there.
So
And
we
then
ended up at the topic you wanted to talk about, even though we didn't intend to talk about it.
It took me there. You
we
said
didn't state we were going to talk about that, but
Oh, okay.
he was able to take the conversation to where he wanted it to go.
yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like that.
Master manipulator.
We kind of just walk around and take a look at all the buildings on our tour.
Yeah, it's
Inside of
it's
our
fine.
minds.
Yeah. The other thing we was going to talk about is how Rhinehold was wrong.
Oh yeah, you had to admit that you're wrong. Let's finish with this. This is a momentous occasion.
Get that champagne.
I don't know if you want to get into this right now.
No, I do. I want to hear you say it.
What I was going to say I was wrong about is that for most of my life, I've always felt that Americans, United States, was the people were at its heart libertarian in some way. They were like, I want to live my life without you telling me what to do or putting force on me. And in turn, I won't do the same to you.
Yeah.
And I mean, this was what Thomas Jefferson was speaking about in
Sure, it's like the fulfillment of the founding, right?
And so I always felt that was the American spirit, that was what Americans believed, and they didn't want to hurt other people. They let people live, that sort of thing, and have some empathy for each other. And I just feel like over the past several years, I've been proven that that's not the case. That
yeah,
we're more
if you
and
listen
more
to the pat
populist.
down and you hear Dion talk, it's like, yeah, if you're a Black American, you never thought that because the boot has always been on your neck.
Yeah.
Because we're going to impose our preferences, our will on you, like.
And you can't say anything about it because you're
But that's
small
woke.
enough that
Somebody called me woke right the other day, and I went, "Oh my God, thank you." It's hard being woke and
I think it's
on the
getting to
right
point,
and right.
I think it's getting to the point where woke is becoming the good thing again.
Maybe you of course would think that. What a lib.
I don't know. Would you want some woke tacos?
What?
Or do you want
On
some
that, like pink hair or what?
Oh, no. You want some DEI hires making your tacos, or do you want the
White
man,
white men making it?
Yeah, Matt Walsh making your tacos. Who do you want making your tacos?
Matt Walsh would have beard hair in there.
Hector Gonzalez or Matt Walsh? Who do you want to make in a taco?
Hector Gonzalez. Who's Hector Gonzalez? Just some random Mexican guy you thought of?
No, yeah. It's I'm with Rhinehold. I think it's going to come back to that because there's a lot of different things that especially just popped out like this last year where like, oh yeah, the woke is dead. This game's so unwoke. Like this thing just has TNA. This has some terrible gameplay.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm fully there with you, Rhinehold, but I do think I have a different perception of, I don't know, somehow in my brain, America and so like the Christian perception of man is that we're all depraved. We all sin. Every human being except Jesus. But then somehow like Americans got an exception. Like their hearts are good and we're a generous country and like, it's like
we bring in the immigrants from all over,
right.
People who need, we're trying to flee all these places that are terrible.
We fought the Nazis who did this, right? And I think I have become less delusional about the state of the heart of an American over the last decade than I certainly was before. Like that does speak to me too.
I mean, you got to look back at the 1920s and 1930s, which we are reliving right now.
Yeah.
And the rise of the American First Movement back in the late
20s Klan.
30s.
Yeah.
And the 20s Klan was part of that. And it was very much a pro Nazi and fascism.
Read Fever in the Heartland.
Really, everybody talks about fascism starting with Italy and Germany, and I don't think so.
No, it was the 20s Klan. It was here. It was George Rockwell, the Nazi guy in the 40s. Like that guy learned it all from D.C. Stevenson here in Indiana.
There were people who were name checked in Mein Kampf.
Yeah, Timothy Egan's book, Fever in the Heartland. You read that, and you'll see how American, like the mindset that we have now. It's always been there. It's just we weren't taught about it because people don't. If any kind of history that makes you feel bad, I don't want to learn about because that I'll just call it woke, and then I won't have to deal with it.
And that's the law now that you're not allowed to talk about it.
That's the dark thing when talking about War II, the Nazis is like, oh yeah, this is so shameful for Germany. Like, no, that's us.
That's human beings in large groups and collective bureaucracies without proper guardrails become murderous.
Yeah, it's not just them for who they are by blood and stuff like that. Yeah, that's us. That's us. It's a human experience.
Yeah, eugenics came out of the United States and England. I mean, that all came from us.
Mhm.
And it's just, and even at the Nuremberg trial, the Nazis were saying, well, we were just doing what you guys were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've talked about it before. Into That Darkness, a book by somebody. It's basically about the guy who ended up running Treblinka. And how do you go from like a cop in Austria, just living your life with your family, to running Treblinka? And he outlines that process. And it's very, the book Ordinary Men, which became popular because of Jordan Peterson. It's like these ordinary men go and become Einsatzgruppen and develop the Nazi death plans. And it's horrifying that
Yeah.
regular people inside of bureaucracies, inside of systems where they can take responsibility away from their own individual selves and put it onto the system, can do horrific things.
But yeah, it's just like some of the ICE agents where they just go around and going after some of the violent criminals that they do find here in the United States and get rid of them, to overseeing people at gator-infested Alcatraz in Florida.
Yeah, it's sort of like just saying, well, they shouldn't have come here illegally by committing that misdemeanor, so it doesn't matter that they got raped in a super prison in Ecuador or El Salvador.
It is it's a misdemeanor. Yeah, just a misdemeanor.
It's like it's they deserved it because they broke the law. Okay, well, you turned right on a red stoplight, so let's take you to prison so you can get raped. Then you'll see how fair it is. But your personal preferences, again, are supreme.
And then really think about that is we create the environment to where they have to do this, like just to get out of where they're going and try to come here to get a better life, instead of just saying, hey, come on in, we'll write you down, we'll have you in the system, and we'll make sure we know where you're at and we can keep an eye on you. They're forced to just kind of sneak in. And what they're finding out now is that as they're getting these people out of this, South Texas is having a real problem getting new houses built because the whole industry is collapsed.
Kidding.
Right?
You don't say.
The estimation is if we were to remove all illegal immigrants, and that's not counting the dreamers or anybody who we now determine is going to be illegal that came here illegally,
the naturalized citizens that
but
Stephen Miller says he's going to kick out.
Just the people who are illegally, you get rid of them, GDP's dropping 7%, right? And you're not going to be able to. Your economic activity drops, housing falls apart. I mean, all this stuff happens because these people are actually benefiting. And
if you were trying to bankrupt the country, you wouldn't do anything different. I mean, between the immigration policy and tariffs, like if you were trying
your dose cuts on the people who need the help the most, you don't care about getting rid of the subsidies for big businesses.
Increase spending with your big beautiful bill, infrastructure, but like if you were trying to collapse the American economy, I don't think you do anything different.
But you're gonna hear people say, well, GDP's up and inflation.
We're not releasing any reports.
What's funny is that when you look at the numbers for the inflation, they couldn't get the data because of the government shutdown.
Right.
So they just took the data from the month before and then added in car cost and gas prices, because that's the only thing they could add in there. So that was the only thing that adjusted it down, because the gas prices went down a little bit.
Yeah, it's not the switch because winter gas is cheaper than summer gas. Oh no.
So finish your thoughts on PBS. What did we not get to that we need to?
I think I got most of it. This is more of a discussion on what to go into the other political agencies, not political agencies, but the other science agencies that are out there that are doing different things like that. Because I think during the pandemic, we also learned that a lot of agencies need compute power, and sharing different data sets like that. I think a lot of that is amazing, but reaching out and having these relationships are very beneficial, and going out to your community. So if you're, but that's more of like things not being so corpo and more being local, like understanding, like, hey, you're government funded or something like that. You should probably be more with your community and reaching out to the people, because people would probably do your stuff for free. The other thing, I'm glad that everyone's now on board with Manifest Destiny 2.0, ocean to ocean, pole to pole, United States from pole to pole. Is going to be great up until Colombia becomes part of the United States and coffee jumps up. But up until that point, it's going to be amazing.
It's got Greenland's going to be coming in soon, and
it's going to be great
because he won't stop that. He said
the other day, he said boats. It all traces back to one billionaire. It's in the book The Divider by the New York Times writer. He talks about the billionaire that put the Greenland thing in his head. He saw it on TV and then talked to the billionaire, and then it got in his head. Yeah. But yeah, you did a good job of throwing the ball and having the ADHD dog chase that to get to that topic. So, all right, guys, thanks for being here. Appreciate you both. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll see you in January.
Happy Yule.
Was it fun?
Happy solstice.
I didn't have any Yule logs this year. We didn't put one on the fireplace. Yep. All right. Thank you for joining us here on We Are Libertarians. We'll see you again next month.